You know what? I'm just gonna start. I think everyone's here. All right. We went over Bootstrap and CDNs. So what's a CDN, Marcos?
It is
You don't have to say the acronym if you don't remember it, but what does it do? Something network, content delivery.
There we go, content delivery network. That's what you were using to actually get the stuff from Bootstrap.
Yes, to actually import Bootstrap into my HTML file, I use this link tag.
Yes.
This is my CDN here.
And you were saying that sometimes, like when you're like on an airplane or something like that, you can't get your CDN. Then it makes whatever you pull up look all super ugly.
Yes. So if you don't have access to the CDN because you don't have access to the internet, it'll make everything super ugly when you load your web page. But in general, that's okay because who's going to be accessing your web page without the internet? These can go down, but I haven't really seen them go down. But theoretically, they can go down.
It's not just one server, it's a whole network.
It's a whole network of servers.
So the point of a CDN is that it distributes it to multiple locations so that if any one server goes down, it's still available.
So one server going down won't take down the whole CDN because it's a network.
Hydra.
It's Hydra.
Hell, Hydra!
All right. Do we want to try splitting a column? It'll create a lot of code in here, make you a little dizzy, but we could split one of these columns into 3 columns, and it would have its own.
Splitting an atom?
I'm sorry?
Is that like splitting an atom?
It's not like splitting an atom. I think it's a little easier than that.
May not be as violent.
But it does. Do you want to do that, or do you want to move on to the DOM and JavaScript?
DOM.
DOM?
DOM.
So David, what was it you were trying to do?
Basically, I was trying to take the user input that they put into the input field, and I was trying to save what they put in there as a variable when they hit the submit button. User input. I am recording now. Sorry, earlier. Script. So I'm just going to put a script tag in here. It's not the simplest example because I already have all this stuff, but we watched it all together, so it shouldn't be too much. We want an input, right? Yeah, an input and a submit button.
And a submit button. All right. Why is it doing this? It has this over here. Huh, I guess input doesn't need a closing tag? All right. Does this work? There's a default input. Here's our input. It looks like it might have been styled already. And how do we access this input from JavaScript?
We create an element out of it.
It's already an element.
ID, I mean.
Okay, we can give it an ID. That's one way.
Or put it in a class or whatever.
Or a class. But if it was multiple things that share a class, then with JavaScript, you have to determine which one of those things you're accessing.
I like the idea of following through with the ID and seeing how that works.
Okay. So So I have input ID equals my input. In my script tags, I can look up how to access a, well, these verbs are unnecessary. A JavaScript ID input. Okay, so it comes right away with by ID. One nice one I like is query selector, because you can, it'll just select the first thing of, all right, let's first do this. If I reload the page, what should happen? What should I put here? My input, because it matches up with the ID here.
Mike, are you doing this script with the JavaScript in it in lieu of doing the file like we did the other day, or is this with the file?
You can do it. I'm just doing it this way for simplicity's sake, but yes, I'm doing it in lieu of a different file. Would you like me to move it to a different file?
I would like to see how that works,
Sure.
and then you iterate.
All right. Now, there's a number of different ways, mostly due to browser compatibility. If you want to support the oldest browsers, in linking JavaScript. Here we have this simplest version. Remember you had an async and defer before? Those are relatively new. Async is newer than defer. And depending on how old your browser is, and maybe if your browser is really old, it just won't even know async or defer. And it'll load the script on the line that is written.
So the async and defer, do they stop it from loading until last? Is that what it is?
Yes, the async and the defer both stop it from loading until the end. But if you want to support the oldest browsers ever, you would want to just include this script tag at the end of your HTML.
Okay, got it.
And it's as simple as just taking this, putting it in here. I'm gonna split my window with this button so I can see them side by side.
Yeah, okay. I'm tracking everything you're doing so far, so don't slow down on that for me.
All
I
right.
was able to get the value input into a variable, but then the question is, what happens after that?
All right.
How do you reprompt?
How do I what?
How do you get the HTML page to reprompt the second time?
How do you get to reprompt the second time? So this is for the number guessing game?
Yeah, or any reprompting. It could be in any context.
Reprompting.
Yeah, asking the same question again.
Oh. All right. So it's probably gonna be some kind of loop. Like while the guess has been wrong, while the guess is wrong, I will do this.
Yeah, I did that, and it spun wildly out of control in endless loops.
That sounds about right. It'll be out of control until like it clicks, and then they'll be in control.
So is that what you do? You set the condition on click?
Yeah. So I need an input button on click. Let me move this button here.
I think what Hal's referring to, You in HTML you actually don't need loops, because HTML it'll do what's called a postback every time you press that submit button, based off of that on click. So it'll do a postback. So it'll basically do your loop for you. You don't have to actually code it. It's running it in the background, and that's that you access that on click by using an add an event handler.
So
That's helpful, Jesus, because that's what I wasn't able to coordinate. I didn't understand how that all worked together well enough to make it work right.
that's one way to do it. To have the HTML element automatically refresh the page. That's not the only way to do it. Jesse, were you using a form?
Yeah, that's using forms, and because here we're doing input, so I mean that's how you use an input. You use a form.
Yes, usually with inputs, you have a form, and the default behavior when you submit a form tag is to refresh the page. Most of the time, we won't be relying on that default, and we actually want to get rid of it. And that's why we use.
But that's what was happening was when I was hitting submit, it was resetting the user input to 0.
Yeah.
So every time I hit
Every time. Mm-hmm.
played the game, it said, you guessed my number because it equaled the.
All right.
So do we need to turn that behavior off somehow, Mike?
To turn the behavior off, yes. Did you have a form as well around your input?
I used form, I used label, I tried 63 different options.
All right.
All of which got me nothing but confused.
To solve this particular problem, you don't need a form and you don't need to refresh. But if we do want a form and there is a submit button, I think it's type equals submit. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. If we have a submit button inside a form, then on click, it should refresh the page. You see that the URL changed. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually refreshing the page every time I click it.
Johnny Bravo disappear?
Johnny Bravo is here because
Taking the value and storing it inside the value of that element.
I can, but every time I refresh the page by clicking this button,
Listen, you know you
this runs.
You see a value in there, like a sample value. Like
Here. Sorry, say that again?
Oh, no, that's okay. I can figure it out.
So each time I refresh the page, it will load my HTML file. And it actually loaded everything, including my JavaScript. And my JavaScript told what I wrote in my JavaScript was get this element, this ID. So all of these have already loaded. So my JavaScript looks at everything and finds the ID, which is where? I'm sorry, there. And it finds this input and it says, this element should have a value of Johnny Bravo. To write JavaScript, I'm going to be console logging every line I write. This is just the example they gave us. If I want to tease out what this means, if I want to understand this example, I want to actually, let's take this out. I just put hello world. It shouldn't change to Johnny Bravo anymore when I refresh the page. So when I click on this button, and that will automatically refresh the page because then
Because
we didn't give it a custom on-click, but It has to do with the form.
Oh, let's see.
Oh gosh.
Didn't you say that that's the default with submit?
Yes. Type submit of a form. This is the form that is submitting. And when we gave the button a type of submit, it will look at its parent and see if it's a form and submit the form. And all of the inputs, let's say I had another input.
It's like sending an envelope. You no longer have the envelope. It's kind of feeling good.
So I have now I have two inputs, but I have one submit button. So there'll be one submit on each form, because you shouldn't have multiple submits on one form, right? So we want to submit this form.
You can log submission in the backend.
Log submission. Oh, we don't have a backend right now.
I'm just saying.
Yes, you definitely want to log your submissions. When you have a form, usually you're asking users what data they want to put into your backend. When you have a form, you're asking for information, then you store that right in the backend. Now, let's get back to the site. I'm going to pull out my trusty console because I'm writing JavaScript. I have two inputs here. 1, 2. First, before the form, because the form refreshes the page, so that makes everything complicated. Let's console log this thing. And let's see what we're working with. What is this element? Get element by ID my input. So that's my input. If I had something in there and I wanted to console log it again, I'm not going to refresh the page because then I would lose what's in here. I still have this thing.
You're forgetting the dot value.
Dot value. It's
It's
under.
inside the other parentheses.
I don't even think I need to console log here, but we have the value inside this element that we selected.
Okay, that's great, but how do you save
Prevent.
that into a variable and not have it reset?
How do I not have it reset? Okay, so this form, let's give this an ID to select it, just like the other one. And I'm going to get the ID or get the element. All right. Dot on submit. And this is going to equal a function. On submit, it will do this. What is my default parameter? It'll take in an event. And if I want to prevent the default behavior of the form, which is refreshing the page, what method of the event can I use?
Suppress default or something like that.
Default, there you go.
Now,
So where did you pull this on submit rabbit out of your hat from?
I just know it's on submit. Forms have on submit.
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
This button type is submit.
Yeah, I did I did type number, and that got me all messed up. All right, got it.
Okay. Different events coming from different elements will have different methods. You won't have an on submit for a tag, but let's say this thing, this hello. I'm not gonna have an on submit, but I might have an on mouse over or an on click. Most things will have those, but because it's a form, it has an on submit. So if everything is going right, I should have selected the ID, my form, and I really should be console logging more instead of just writing things out. But now it doesn't refresh the page anymore. So I type something in and it won't clear it because the page isn't refreshing. I have prevented the default behavior of the form. Now this syntax,
He's still using the input.
and I can still use the input. And then now I can not be harassed by all the refreshing that's automatically being done. You can, of course, you can take advantage of that refreshing and write your loop and make the refresh your loop. That's fine too. But this is how you prevent the refresh. And you'll have to do this quite a bit with your forms.
Inside the function prevent default, can you prevent specific default behavior versus all of it? Like let's say there's multiple things that are happening on the event.
I'm sure there's a way to prevent only certain behaviors.
Maybe it would have a specific.
I've never tried.
Okay.
Mike, one question.
Uh-huh.
If you're using a form, where are your form tags?
My form tags are here. I typed them in earlier.
Oh, okay. They're in the, okay. I'm sorry. I see now. You're in the JavaScript file. Okay.
I'll just go ahead and take this out
I gotcha.
and put it in here, and I'm just gonna paste it in the slide when we're done.
That works.
All right, and we could go through the actual algorithm part of it, but I know you guys got that. But that's how you prevent the page from refreshing when you.
One other question. I see in here the option for form action. Is that part of your tag there?
Say again?
I see an option here for form action. Is that like clicking submit, but hitting enter and putting data into a form and then it calls a function?
So certain tags will have default behaviors, and I'm forgetting.
An anchor tag's default behavior is to actually open up the link.
An anchor tags, yep, default behavior. Yeah, they all have their own.
You can actually overwrite that and have it all of your APIs where your links just don't work.
You can overwrite your links so they don't work. You can overwrite pretty much everything, but I'm not sure about the action thing you're talking about.
Okay, thanks. What I'm learning from this and from you, and as I see you do this, is that there's a lot of permutations and combinations that are possible. We just need to find some that work for us.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna guide you to what I prefer, which is good and bad. What's up?
Oh, I was, whenever you're done with your,
Oh.
ask you a question.
Oh, you can ask now.
Okay. What do you think about us finding like for let's say we start a project or a challenge and we find a really cool template HTML skeleton. Yes. Finding one that works and just dissecting it, taking from it and adding to it just for expediency and learning. Otherwise, we're just
What do I think about finding an HTML template that's pre-built and dissecting it and picking it apart to understand how things work?
Project, not necessarily for our purposes right now, but when we're faced with a challenge,
I think
quickly go about learning and quickly set out.
I would do the opposite. I would find small examples that aren't large and build from nothing.
Sure.
And that will be, when I see a bunch of code that's already been written, it's not just intimidating, it's dizzying. Like, you have to actually look through that and understand it before you can actually use it. And I'd say even when you're writing your own things, when they're getting a bit long, when your CSS and your HTML is getting long and you're lost, wipe it. Just start over.
Sure.
Or go to a good commit.
Okay.
If it's too much and you're losing track, you're not going to be able to tease things out as easily and learn as effectively because there's too many moving parts. And when you go into the workforce, you will get practice looking at pre-existing code. So enjoy writing your own from scratch right now. All right. So what I want to emphasize is the form. It's going to have a submit inside it. And that submit will refresh the page because it's a form, and that's what forms do. And how you get out of that.
So is there any way to let it refresh? That way you can continue on with your JavaScript code, but save that to a variable that's not affected.
Yes. So
You can use cookies.
you can use cookies. Yeah. Or local storage. Some way of storing the data on the client side. Silas, what do I mean by client side? The user. Yes. We have the server, which is us, and we have the client, which is the user on the computer. And we have to store it on the client side somehow, somewhere on their computer. It'll be a cookie or local storage, but it's not going to be on our server. So if they clear their thing, it's gone. Which is good and bad, right? Yes, we probably introduced the local storage thing a little. We could spread things out a little bit. Sorry. If you haven't done, that's okay though, because today we were gonna do the Git workshop today, and you have HTTP server 2. But just HTTP server 2 alone isn't gonna be enough to keep you busy, I suspect. If you haven't if you haven't dealt with local storage, work on that one and your to-do list. Robert, have you done the to-do list?
I did. I didn't agree with it, but I did. I'm actually not finished. I haven't done the local storage implementation yet, but yes, I did do a to-do list.
Okay. Oh yes. Who has not done the to-do list? Do the to-do list today. I'm gonna move it to today in the curriculum so you can find it easily. This was
Before yesterday?
Was it?
Support the new.
So these two, I'll move to today.
It's
I'm sorry.
okay.
That's like completely my fault. I'm just going
I haven't
to.
even finished the
I had to reorganize things to accommodate things, and it's too much there, but not enough here, so it works out.
Oh, nice. I went over
HTTP1. You know, I feel like HTTP server 2 is the answer to HTTP server 1, and I'm not telling you to like copy and paste it over, but I think that with HTTP server 2, you have more opportunity to play around with the same thing that you've been working with, and maybe we can go over it, go over all of it, because you definitely need to. These other things were skipped because it was too much. So I'm gonna throw these here.
HTTP server 2.
It's easier than 1.
Yeah, it's certainly easier if you already kind of have everything set up, and then it's gonna essentially build off of like what Django is gonna kind of look like, separating browse responses, request responses, gonna separate all that stuff out, separate files, separate directories, kind of build a template of what Django, building like a boilerplate Django.
The Django directory intrinsically does all the fine.
Yeah, so like it's more boilerplate, it'll just install Django and have like boilerplate, everything's been separated already. What we're building the HTTP server challenges is essentially you're building to kind of understand how, where information is being had.
And we'll be able to work with Django.
All right, it's been 50. No.
And you're gonna get into like utilizing popular programs, classes.
Yeah.
Like request, class.
That's what we're.
Yeah.
All right. You'll work on these. If you're already done, check out ngrok. I love ngrok. Later on, you'll be making your own websites and running your own local server. So it'll be running a server on your machine, much like the server you've been running for HTTP server 1, except instead of returning these handcrafted strings, you're going to be returning what this framework has to offer, this whole website. And the problem with that is it only works on your computer. If you want to show it to somebody, you have to take your computer, open it, turn it on, and show it to somebody. We'll also deploy it on the internet later, but before deploying, you can just make a little tunnel. And if your computer is on, you can, anything that's on localhost, you can just put on the internet. And it'll give you your own little URL, and your localhost will be exposed to the internet. And you can test it from another machine or from your own machine and see how it actually works with requests. I like it. So anything on localhost you can put on the internet with ngrok, like pretty quick. Although it's not going to persist when you close your laptop. It's not going to be there anymore.
Also, if you want to see like a review video of server 1, look at W5.
Yeah, HTTP server. Yeah, there's probably at least 3 different videos of HTTP server 1 on YouTube from past cohorts.
I think that was like 3 or
Oh, this one wasn't even in. Oh, it's just,
So, the other cohort, they didn't Python, or they-
oh yeah, it was in Ruby before, but up to golf. Golf was the first one in Python. GHI are all in Python. So there's 3 other ones.
Okay.
All right. All right, have fun. Hit me up with any questions.
So there's Thursdays of parent partners.
Yes, pairing partners, in person, pair with remotes. We need to like meet each other at least.
They're sick of meeting me.
No, you're a celebrity. How? Oh, Hal, do you want to share where you're from?
Oh, I'm from Preston, Idaho. If you've ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, that's my hometown.
The school.
Yeah, wait.
How? Yeah, that's how.
I didn't know that. I couldn't.
Need to meet each other. Then, you know. I wish we had more side rooms, but it's okay if you have headphones. Just stay out here. And it's
Hey, Mike,
yeah.
I got a little tidbit. I don't know if anyone else has had trouble with the installation of some of the programs like I was having. As you recall, with Postgres and the like, and some of the libraries with the pip install.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, when I was messing with it, trying to get one of them to work right, it threw an error and told me to install using pip3. And that seemed to make a huge difference, pip3.
Okay. And the message itself said to do that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it worked. It worked. So
right.
put that in your kit bag.
Okay. Thanks for the tip.
Sure. Thanks.
All right. I'm glad it's big.